Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Premier League panel show with American Scouser. It's me, Gordon. I am back, my redemption arc, but I've already been told there might be some complications with the feed already. So, the first time I thought might have been the last time I ever did this. This might actually be the last time I ever get asked to do this, but here's my esteemed guest on the panel today. JW, how are you today?
Doing well, yeah, doing well. 4 wins on the bat, or 4 and 5. Chelsea are on the run, so happy.
Yeah, especially at a time when everybody else is dropping points, it's good to collect those and put those in the bank. Where are you located? Did you have any weather? I know like almost everybody had weather this weekend. Did you survive it?
Yeah, Los Angeles, we had our batches of weather over the past few months. We were spared the oblivion that seems to have kind of come in quite all over.
Well, that's good. I'll trade you there. Glenn, how are you today?
I'm good. It's cold here, Gordo. We don't have the lovely LA weather to fall back on like Jamie. It's felt like because I've half converted. I do Fahrenheit for warmth, and I do Celsius for cold. That's just the way my brain's been conditioned now. So Celsius, it's been scary. It's when the Celsius meets the Fahrenheit. That's when you get real problems, right? And that's what we've been dealing with for the lows. Like it's probably the coldest weather since I moved to Iowa 4 years ago. It's like been outrageously cold, but not as much snow. We haven't been hit with the East Coast snow, thankfully.
Yeah, we suffered the same thing in the Panhandle here. It's just a lot of just freezing weather, a little bit of rain, not a whole lot of snow. Thank goodness, because they got packed. My sister-in-law lives in Indianapolis, and they got 9 inches on like from Saturday to Sunday, which is insane.
It's been awful. It was a frosty atmosphere at the GTEC after Sean Deitch.
Yeah, you definitely. That's a great transition because I definitely want to talk about the towel comment. So yeah, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. We got the match day 23. We'll discuss that in as much detail as we care to. Maybe there's only one person here that's going to be happy about the weekend results. Towels and transfers, and we. And we got the AFCON effect as AFCON is wound down. And maybe we even talk about the final. I don't know if either of you caught any glimpses of that final, but a little chaotic. It's just spoke AFCON all over it. I think it was just the hallmark AFCON match. And then we'll look ahead to next week, and then we'll do our Tonali picks. And this time I will not forget about those because I know those are essential to this feed here. So yeah, if you could see it there, that was the weekend results. Started us off on Saturday. A couple of big ones there. Obviously, Manchester City getting the job done against Wolves. Poor Wolves. And then the big one on Saturday was Bournemouth versus Liverpool in basically the reverse scoreline in almost exactly the same time frames as well for the win there for Bournemouth. Liverpool dropped some crucial points over the weekend when it just seems like every time Arsenal drops points, we drop more. So not looking good there. And then Sunday, obviously, big games. Chelsea pick up all the points against Palace amid a little bit of controversy. Maybe we can go into that. Maybe, JW, you want to talk about that, the VAR. But then Villa picks up their 3 points in a weekend where Arsenal falters against Manchester United, which maybe the gift that keeps on giving for all of us with these manager bounces that they get, and then they sign them to long deal contracts, and they're not as picked out as they appear to be at first. And then the blockbuster event on Monday. Everybody loves the 2 p.m. Monday games. Everton versus Leeds. What a barn burner that was. So glad we turned in for that one. But yeah,
Monday Night Football used to be a thing, right?
Like, right. Yes. Yeah.
You'd say one of the better games would always be reserved for Monday Night Football, just like in the US NFL, and it feels like just
they want the opposite.
Like Thursday Night Football now for in NFL. Just stick them over there, whatever.
That's exactly how I feel too. It's just like it feels like even the last 4 or 5 years, the Monday game has historically been just a real damn squid. But we'll get started in here. Glenn, do you got something you want to pick out, a game that you want to talk about, a game that stuck out to you for whatever reason?
I mean, I had the pleasure of watching it. It's got to be the Arsenal Man United game. I mean, it was so nice. My Sunday was like a perfect if Carlsberg did weekends kind of Sunday. Sadly, the Brentford result didn't help me. But I woke up at 8, watched Brentford Forest, rolled straight into Arsenal Man United, then hopped over to the football to watch Broncos, battle a blizzard and sadly get pushed aside by the Patriots. I didn't quite have the stamina to jump straight into the Seahawks game. That was the limit for other people want to use the TV, but 3 in a row. I had a really nice Sunday, and by far, Brentford game was unfortunate. The Broncos game was a tricky watch, but Arsenal Man United, that is a proper Premier League game of football. Had all the moments right. Had the first goal, nobody knows if it's an own goal as Timber scored it. You have the kind of confusion, scrappy kind of goal. You get a howler from Zubimende to pass the ball to Bumo. Already, that's enough talking points, right? It was a weird game. First half was wasn't great quality, but there was flashes of intensity, 10-minute pockets. Second half, you get 2 worldies. You get 2 worldies from Dorgu and Cunha, just goals, goals that can just really be a highlight of your career, as I'm sure they were for probably both of them, actually, undoubtedly. Cunha for the winner, Dorgu just offering what he has. I saw him in Chicago when it was the summer series a couple months ago for United. He looked pretty bright. I think he scored. He did score. He looked really lively, playing as a very
wasted as a wing back.
Exactly. It seems he's really thrived since being pushed forward. Obviously, the irony now, he's done his hammy in for a couple of weeks, which is a real shame for him. But yeah, I mean, the fact that Marino got again this kind of scrappy-ish goal, and they didn't stay level for more than 3 minutes. I mean, from my perspective, as a neutral, I don't really want Arsenal to win the Premier League. I don't really want Man City to win the Premier League. You're kind of clutching at straws. Villa, sure, but we can talk about it. But I don't think they've got enough gas in the tank to win a Premier League this year. So you're looking between Arsenal and City. It's well, no one wants the smug Arsenal fans, obviously. But do we really want the Petro State winning it again? I don't know, right? There's not winning. But for this game, I was I just wanted chaos, right? I wanted goals because I've watched so many big top 4 games this season with just low entertainment. Yeah. And it had everything. I mean, again, those 2 screamers, Dorgu, Cunha. I mean, pick the best goal. I don't know which one it is, but that was a proper game of football. And for United to come into that as obviously massive underdogs, despite sitting, I think they're probably sitting about 4th now, or wherever they've crept up to somehow. Yeah. But for them to come in as big underdogs, to turn over Arsenal, for Arsenal to concede 3 goals, that was the biggest takeaway for me. Their kind of unbreachable defense was just completely unlocked for a variety of different reasons. It was great. And, City did win. So they kept the pressure on. Obviously, Villa also got a massive result we want to talk about at Newcastle. The teams that we wanted to win to keep it interesting did win. It was a proper game of football. I mean, it was 5 goals, last minute winner, the underdog, which is silly as it is to say that, but the genuine underdog knocking away the kind of title contenders. That's a proper game of football. I loved it.
Yeah, away from home as well, which it was massive for them. And I think that was the first time they said it was the first time United had beaten Arsenal in 8 years or something like that. Crazy. It was the Emirates. This is kind of ridiculous, and that's in all competitions. So massive win, new coach.
It also shows you how that Chelsea goal record in the 04-05 season under Mourinho, where they conceded 15 goals. We're looking at this Arsenal defense and saying they are absolute titans. They've already conceded 17 goals. So to only concede 15 for the whole season, absolutely insane.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because Arsenal, they have the gold trophy that they like to tout around all the time. But I do think that Chelsea squad, they deserve some kind of a gold trophy for that, because that is an insane. I mean, just to think, when City got 102 points they finished with in 2019, 2018. How many goals did they give up? It was 20 something, 25, 26 goals. So, and that was an incredible season for them. And so, it's kind of untouchable. And I mean, I guess as a Liverpool fan watching this Liverpool side and what Arne Slot's trying to do and the complete contrast from the heavy metal football of Jurgen Klopp, how did you handle that? Because that was the big thing was, Chelsea's winning everything, but this is so boring and they're winning 1-0. I mean, did that bother you? I know like it seemed to split the fan base. It definitely split the Premier League fan base in terms of whether people wanted to tune into this machine.
It depended who our manager was. I think Chelsea had been close before and never really won much. So I think we were just happy to be winning. But it did depend on the narrative at the time, who the manager was, and kind of like to an extent style of play. But I always think that style of play gets thrown around by teams that haven't won anything. And as soon as you get style of play and you don't win, then you complain about something else. It's kind of flavor of the month. But like under Mourinho, where we would literally park the bus and we would go a goal up and defend. I mean, that siege mentality was exciting. It was them against us. Everyone hated Chelsea for a variety of reasons. Mourinho was just flared that, stoked that fire in the media, and it was fantastic to watch, honestly. And it was a really good time. It was a great time to be a Chelsea fan, to be honest. We had our trials and tribulations. Every manager under the sun. Like it wasn't terribly exciting under like Benitez, Scolari, Sarri, like Andres Villas-Boas. Like we had some kind of questionable styles of play, and then like that wasn't terribly exciting, even though some of those styles were a lot more expansive than what Mourinho was putting on the pitch. Ultimately, having a consistent style of play, you knew what the team was going to be, and that you had that cohesion and unit kind of performing, kind of like Liverpool had the past couple of years. Like that was exciting. Like regardless of whether it's 1-0, we did our thing, we executed the plan efficiently, and it was awesome to watch. I mean, you mentioned Liverpool, but back to that, like that comment that Carragher mentioned a couple years ago with Salah, like leave football before football leaves you. It's amazing how much airtime that gets with any Liverpool mistake. Like Van Dijk, like has been shocking the past few weeks and all year, to be honest. And like he kind of just points at other people. And if you become a meme, you've had a bad season, I would say. And he's had plenty.
Yeah, that's I'll put the stats up of that game too, because another game where it was lopsided in one direction and the result didn't go the way of the stats. But it's crazy to think, because we were having this conversation in Discord last year at maybe October is when it really started to heat up. You had your entire spine, or at least not actually the spine through the center, but the spine of the team. You had Mo, you had Trent, you had Verge, you had Allison, all on like their contracts are expiring. And at the time, and even at the end of last year, unfathomable to let all three of those run out and remove them. However, hindsight 2020, Liverpool might actually be in a better, in terms of probably the media and maybe where the fans feel that we should be. We might be in a better position mentally had that all happened. We could have maybe turned to that, or leaned on that. It's been such an awful season in that regard, where Mo has been a shadow of himself. Hopefully he comes back from AFCON. I saw little sparks, but then also saw the same sparks of underperforming that we've seen all season. So it'll be interesting to get him back up to speed and see if he brings it back. Verge is, it's one thing to let that happen. Verge usually doesn't let that happen on the last goal there. And it's another thing to be the captain and then basically throw everyone else except for yourself under the bus in the media. I mean, it's capitulation, and I'm not sure whether it's in the locker room. I don't know whether it's in the field, or it's just maybe Verge isn't that great of a leader. I don't know where the problems are, and I don't think any Liverpool fans are, because when you jump into those Liverpool discords or you go on one of the Facebook pages, everyone is an armchair manager and everyone has the solution, but all the solutions are different. Nobody can agree on what is the actual problem here, and I think that's the most troubling. And then not going in January and buying anybody is baffling. And we were talking about letting Robertson potentially, he was being flirted with Tottenham Hotspur, and you're letting him go at a time when that back line is already so frail, and you get injuries over the weekend in the back line, and it just doesn't make sense top to bottom. And it's concerning. It's really worrying, especially because this is a topsy-turvy season already. And these are, you get those easy points, or the points that you should have in the bag, and you'd be right up there contending, and you're just not, and you're being dragged into it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the season where it's easy to contend as well, because no team is great. Like, the reason Villa are up there, they've been pretty good, but like ultimately it's because all the big six sides have been awful. Like Liverpool, awful. United, awful. Chelsea, awful. And still in with a shout of the Champions League spot, which is quite saying something. So there's something to compete for. There's definitely three leagues almost being played out, 3 tiers of the league. There's a top 3, and over the remaining matches, maybe one side will bridge that gap, or Villa will tail off. But I doubt you'll see a champion coming from outside of that. Realistically, it's Arsenal's to lose, which they probably will. And then down to the bottom, like, teams keep winning. So I see West Ham will win, and then Forest will win as well, and they don't actually gain too much ground. It's actually quite exciting down there, other than Wolves, who are obviously already gone. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting end to the season at both ends, I think.
So with that, because I think we might all be in agreement there, and it might just be because we just dislike Arsenal and maybe Arteta as a human being. But if he doesn't come back with a trophy at the end of the year, if we get to May and he's got nothing in his hands, is it curtains for him at Arsenal?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it will be like Josh Allen not getting to the Super Bowl and Mahomes isn't there, and neither's Joe Burrow. Be one of those, right? Like, but you need someone else that's going to, like, you have lined up to come in who's going to do it better. And like, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone right now that you would necessarily bring in. Like, managers and strikers, I can think of like 3 in the world that you'd actually want, and everyone else is kind of average. Like, very few separate themselves. Probably centre backs as well. That's why people talk about Virgil van Dijk being a GOAT. Like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, wouldn't touch some of the guys that were around in the Premier League at the time, I'd say. But yeah, I wouldn't get rid of him. Like, they're building a team. They're building. They have an identity. It's taken a long time to build. They could have pulled the plug early on. They didn't. They stuck with it, and they have seen some success and a good style of play. This is their opportunity. They should win it. If they bottle it twice in a row, then perhaps, if you have a backup plan and how you intend to elevate, but that's just as risky. You could replace the manager and fall backwards and back into where they were really for 10 years and find that they're nowhere, and they just get replaced in that kind of elite group by one of the many clubs that are kind of Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, who are kind of getting their act together, perhaps, and 1 or 2 of them will jump right back up.
Definitely. Glenn, for you, the same thing for you?
Yeah, totally agree with Jamie. Great analysis. I think there will be parts of the fan base that are probably quite rightly impatient. Was it going to be 6 years? 6 years now, I think. That's a long time. That's a level of trust and backing that you just don't get in contemporary football, right? That's almost unprecedented now. However long he's been there, 6 years sounds like ages, but I'm sure he's been there a long time. Anyway, it's interesting though, so we're kind of looking. It's interesting because their season's operating at kind of different levels. So yes, so I looked at the table and they haven't won in 3 in the Premier League, right? And that to me kind of screams, oh, we getting an early choke going on? What's happening there? But to be fair to them, they've played you guys and Man United in that run, which is, regardless, is really hard. Forest away, never an easy place to go, although champions would expect to beat a team that's in the bottom 5. And then in between that, you've got winning away at Chelsea in a semi-final. You've got going to Inter Milan and coming away with a 3-1 win. So I think at the minute, and brushing aside Porto from the FA Cup. So what they've done is they've kept their momentum in the FA Cup, the EFL Cup, and the Champions League. And honestly, what we're probably seeing in the Premier League is just, it is really hard to sustain a best team in England and a best team in Europe, indefinitely, right? That's actually probably almost impossible, right? To just be winning every game in every tournament. They've done the business in the cups in the last 2 weeks. And they've let things slide a little bit in the league. So the context, I think, is quite important to me. And then before that, they batter Villa, which was a statement win. and they get a win at Bournemouth, which you guys have seen. It's a really hard place to go and get a win. They're a really tricky team. So it's funny. I looked at just the Premier League table and the form, and I was like, uh-oh, this looks rough for them. And then I went to all their results, and I was like, you know what? You can't complain about a semi-final win away from home and demolishing Inter Milan, right? Obviously, if they had beaten United, nobody's having this talk because they're just firing on all cylinders. If they'd even drawn with United, right? If that was a late equalizer, different narrative, right? Late equalizer, they've shown some fight against a resurgent United. Because they lost and they haven't won in 3, you do look at it, you're like, but one thing I would say on the Arteta question, I wouldn't see any point in replacing him. I just don't know who's going to do a better job with this bespoke group of players that he has nurtured and coached. What I would say is I don't know how good their recruitment was throughout the summer, right? Gyökeres is just like, there's big question marks over him. I think he looks a little overinflated as an asset for what he's delivering. I think there's probably consensus on that he's been underwhelming. Look at a player like Eze. I mean, are they getting the best out of Eze? Obviously not. Are they making the most of his talents? Obviously not, right? Apart from the North London derby hat-trick, which was probably a highlight of the season for fans.
Seems like he's not done much since then, right?
No, he's not playing. I mean, to be fair to him, he's not being given the minutes. But you look at their squad, okay, well, you're struggling for goals. 2 0-0s in the last 3 in the league. And you're like, well, okay, well, you've got players like Eze, you've got Gyökeres, you've got big money attacking signings, right? They should honestly be the bedrock of your attack. Saka isn't really firing the way that we would expect him to, right? And I honestly think they kind of have an overabundance of wingers, your Martinellis, your Maduekes, your Trossard. I still am wondering if Arteta knows his best side of informed players. I'm not sure he does. Because I don't know if Saka would necessarily be starting there, because he's been actually, I think, pretty poor the last couple of games. So anyway, these are good problems to have. You look at their squad, Kai Havertz to come back in, right? Quality player. You do feel they have the best in-depth squad to win the league. You look at that back 4, or at least whoever, Timber, Gabriel, Saliba, whoever plays alongside them there, White, whoever else. That's a really good back line. David Ray is one of the best keepers in the league. I think Declan Rice is probably honestly one of literally the best player in the league, in my opinion. I think he'd be top 3 for me. I look at the squad, I look at the manager, I think they've got enough gas in the tank. But for the kind of Super Bowl analogy, right, Jamie, it's like, if you don't do it this season, are you going to do it next season when Man City are firing again and Chelsea are in the picture and Liverpool are back in the picture? I get the sense there's like, this is the season to do it. And if he isn't going to do it this season, you do have the kind of ultimate question of, well, you have the best squad, you have the worst opponents. I can't think of a weaker Premier League top 4 in my life. Abysmal. You've got to do it. You've got to stamp your authority on this league and say, we're the best team in England and we're the best team in Europe, and we're going to show you. So pressure's on. I mean, hey, if they didn't win the league but won an FA Cup and maybe a League Cup, what do people say then? It's more silverware. But you just feel it has to be Arsenal's year. They are playing the best football. They do look the most consistent team. And as I said, if they drew against United, I think there'd be a lot less worries right now. But when Man City's on your shoulder, you just... you've got Semenyo and Haaland. There's something with Man City where if it catches fire, you can see them catching up with them and overtaking them. You can see that happening. Yeah,
for them to strengthen in January as well.
Hugely.
And I'm going to add that it's going to be 116 offenses, in my opinion, because for them to sign Guehi and Semenyo for the price that they did, that seems like highway robbery for the rest of the league. But
100%. I said Gordo last week. I think it's the same price as United spent on Anthony for those two.
Insane.
That's pretty wild, isn't it? Yeah. That is pretty.
I think Guehi's on ridiculous wages though because of that.
Probably. Of course.
I think he's on 420 a week or something like that, that's why I think the primary reason Chelsea backed out, and I imagine Liverpool did too.
Yeah, and and honestly, it could have been something maybe his agents came through, but there was that Liverpool were linked simply because of the summer issues that went on, and there was no official bid. It didn't seem like, and so I think it was very clear from January 1st that they were going in with big money, and if you weren't going to put up, then they weren't interested. So, it'll be interesting to see if Arsenal can find some form in the league, and there is. I know a lot of people that they'll look down on the League Cup or they don't consider it as big as a trophy as like the FA Cup or the Champions League, obviously. But there is something to be said for the boost that an early season silverware can give you and ignite the squad into just carrying on, because this is, I mean, we are in the drudge. It's cold. It's rainy almost every other game. It's dark at 4:00. These guys are struggling. And you've just hit basically the maximum amount of games in a month. And so we do see that downturn. But if you can finish that run with some silverware at the end of the month, when is the finals in February this year, isn't it?
I think it's pretty early.
So, well, yeah, if you can grab that, it definitely boosts for that final hurdle of the league. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Talking form, Brentford were on a little bit of a high and kind of got brought back down to earth. How did you feel this weekend with that Nottingham Forest game at home?
Yeah, it was disappointing. We played relatively well. It was the most passes I think we've made in a game this season, but we're not very good against the low block. That is our Achilles heel, I think. I think we love playing on the counter. We love a little low block ourselves and hitting teams flying. We've done that to pretty much every team in the league, at least the top half. Over the years, just absorbing pressure, killing them with Mbuma or Vissel or whoever, Sharda on the counter. Yeah, it was a real shame. We were the better team, at least in terms of like controlling the game, right? I'm sure the stats would be very heavy. I'm just pulling them up now. Yeah, 2 more shots. Possessions.
42 touches in the box as opposed to 16.
Yeah, almost doubled their passes, 67% possession. But ultimately, that just doesn't matter. I'm not using those as a way of saying, oh, we should have won the game. I'm kind of pointing to them as, okay, well, what do we do with that? What do we do with those touches in the box? What do we do with the possession? And fundamentally, it wasn't enough, right? We didn't deserve to win the game on account of just being more kind of dominant and being more on top of the ball. When all said and done, even if you control the ball, you can still be a pretty easy team to play against if you're just not being incisive enough. And we had moments, we had flashes. And ultimately, the 2 goals we conceded were really, really, really poor. They were so avoidable. I mean, they're forward. Igor Jesus scores with his back to goal. Abysmal defending from Collins there. And then you can't make it up. Awoni, who's like a ghost in the Premier League these days. Yeah. Sounding very Arnie Slot. Exactly what it's true for us. I mean, we have similar struggles, I think. And 80 minutes in on the counter, just Morgan Gibbs White, a beautiful pass. He's such a classy player. Awoni, that he's pacey, he's strong, he's a big guy, but he just brushes Van den Berg off the ball. Henry or whoever else slides in all too little, too late. And, a very avoidable goal. That was a sucker punch, right? It's on the counter. We've been going forward. And, yeah, it was all a little frustrating. I mean, credit to Forest for executing a game plan to perfection. As much as it pains me to say it, I think you do have to acknowledge that we've done it before. They really killed the absorb pressure, kill them on the counter. Like, they nailed that. Credit to them. Because they're under pressure, right? They're in the relegation scrap. So credit to them. But it was a deeply, deeply frustrating watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, what is it about Sean Dyche and the ability to score? You usually don't see that with his teams that he's picked up, but he hit us for 3. He hit Arsenal for 3, didn't he? And he's getting results and he's getting goals, which is usually something that you can't say about him. But obviously, he has a way of also making it about him. And I'm sure you saw the comments, but these were his comments about the towels on the sideline. Now, obviously, you guys benefit greatly from that because you've got a real, a launcher of basically turning a throw in anywhere on that half into almost a corner kick. So, huge improvements. But this seems to be an issue that maybe it's started last year, but I'm starting to see it more and more and more, is managers, fans are starting to be annoyed at how long the throw-ins are starting to take. I forget which team it was, but somebody had moved the advertisement boards in for an Arsenal game just so he wouldn't get the long throw ability. What I guess I'll start with you, JW. What do you think that issue is? Do you think it's a time wasting issue, or do you think that it's so difficult to defend a throw in if they're going to be launched in like that it's just kind of a tactic of like, I don't want to see this because it's hard to defend against? Or do you think there's some validity in why there's such a pushback, or there's such an admonishment of throw-ins these days?
I'll say, I think it depends who's it's against. If it's against Arsenal, it's not time wasting. I think most teams would quite like to waste time against Arsenal. I think it is football's a pendulum, right? We swing back and forth. It was like we getting back to some elements, like the long ball, like the long throw, back like Rory Delap, Stoke City, Pulis ball. And it is difficult to defend. It doesn't have as much pace or as dip as a corner, and teams haven't figured out how to defend it. Once one or two teams do figure out how to defend it, I'm sure others will figure it out, copy, and then you'll probably see less of them. But now it is a strategic advantage that if you don't have one, it's a weapon that the opposition has against you. So trying to remove that weapon is paramount, and that it's an extra. You're more likely to win if you remove your opposition's best weapon. Arsenal haven't scored from open play in God knows how long, right? Like Gabriel at corner is basically like having Haaland in open play. So you can limit the amount of balls that come into the box, then you are limiting supply, and it's basically like isolating your striker, I'd say, for now.
How about you, Glenn? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, the irony of Sean Dyche saying it when his team egregiously time wasted, egregiously. It was an absolute disgrace that there was 3 or 4 minutes added on at the end. It should have been 8 or 9. I mean, hey, if you can do it, do it. I mean, Brentford have time wasted. It's all circumstantial, isn't it? You want to time waste when you're winning a game late. You get frustrated when you're losing. I get it, but it felt really ironic for his kind of dinosaur time wasting, for him to be the one complaining about this. I was like, come on. On the point, I mean, I'm a little ambivalent about it. I mean, yeah, you want to speed the game up and get as much. Time wasting in all forms of sports, right? In all sports and in all positions on the pitch is frustrating. Like, we've seen goalkeepers going down so managers can bring on instructions like that. That's just ridiculous. With the long throw and a towel, I mean, I don't really care about the towel that much. It's like, it makes sense to dry a ball. If you're going to chuck it as far as you can, that's fine. It feels a little inconsistent, I guess, if it's at the behest of the home team. That's a curious rule. I feel either it should be universal or it's not given. It's a bit weird that home teams decide and then offer the towels to both or neither. A bit weird. And as I don't know if Dyche himself mentioned, or someone did the analysis I read today, like, they cut it out of the championship or whatever, as we might have mentioned. And all right, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't too fussed about it. Like, okay, you can get rid of them, whatever. At the minute, it suits us, right? Because Coyote throws it farther than anyone else in the league. If we didn't have Coyote, then I'd be like, yeah, speed up the game, get rid of it. But because we benefit from it, of course, I'm going to be like, well, for me, it's like, it's not really hurting anyone as long as it's not, ridiculously long. But I do appreciate throw-ins taking as long as corners to get set up for. There's pushing, like. It was the game. It was the last game. Was it the Chelsea game at JW where we had all this pushing and everyone throwing themselves?
They need to figure that out. With all Arsenal having 4 players around the goalkeeper just boxing out. There's literally 9 players 8 or 9 players in the 6-yard box. Like that, I think that's probably a bit ridiculous. They need to figure that out. But if anyone could actually figure out how to defend it, and teams are bringing all their defenders up for the corner, it's also a strategic advantage for a counter-attack. You leave a couple of fast players up there, they've got no centre-backs back.
Yeah, and I think timing it, like, someone just said in the chat, I mean, I don't think the towel was the issue. I don't know why that's such a big sticking point. What does it take? Like 2 or 3 seconds? Not even that.
Yeah, that's not what's wasting the time, right?
Yeah, I think we could definitely speed it up, because on my perspective, if you're somebody with a long throw, I think speeding it up might even benefit you because actually maybe it's the defense that's busy getting organized. You know what I mean? Like, so I think there could be a benefit because again, we're benefiting from it right now. That's my lens. That's my perspective. But yeah, I don't like time being wasted. I think it's ridiculous when it takes 30, 40 seconds to organize a throw in. Like that's just silly. And yeah, again, you know, we had this big long throw discourse start of the season. I can't remember the last time. I could be wrong here. I can't remember the last time Brentford scored from a long throw in the sense that it's obviously been a fair few games now. Arsenal as well. I can't quite remember the last time they scored from a long throw. It's just these things always come and go. You know, two or three seasons ago, I remember when we had all the added time on, right? They were basically stopping the clock and they were adding 10, 11, 12 minutes on at the end. Everyone hated it. It was quietly abolished. We've never talked about it since. The whole long throw thing, I think teams are figuring out how to defend against it. I don't think it's as effective for Arsenal or Brentford as it was 6 months ago. And I think this whole thing, I would be staggered if we're talking about throw-ins at the end of the season. That's kind of my perspective. It's just, again, ironic for me that Sean Dyche is the one to speak up about fair play and time wasting. I mean, like the pot kettle. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. So I guess it comes on the heels. I looked this up just in case there might be, you know, it's not just him and the throw-ins in Brentford. We are seeing it across the league. But looking up the statistics now, 55 minutes a game is where the ball is in play in the Premier League. That is almost 2 minutes fewer time than last year. And the games are averaging about a minute longer. So, and that is the lowest that it's been in the last 10 years. So we are seeing a lot of time wasting, which, you know, for the amount of money that people are going to watch these games, for the amount of money that us as viewers are spending on watching these games just to stream them. You know, I think it's maybe something to be looked at. Like the pitch clock in baseball, everyone hated that when it first came in. It's actually really nice. You can predict exactly basically when the game's done. Like if you actually go to a baseball game and you're like, yeah, it'll be basically about 3 hours and you're in and out.
I would attribute the games. I mean, yes, I think it's probably death by a thousand cuts, but like VAR has been taking a long time. Like
that's true.
Agree.
So it feels like, because I'm thinking like how many teams have a long throw specialist? Not all of them. It's probably like handful. 4 at most, 5, right? That's not contributing to the overall like time of the balls on the pitch, but every team has VAR, and that there's at least 1 or 2 in every game. I think that I would imagine, and they never add on the full amount of time, right? There's also more substitutions now than there were a few years ago, and I imagine that is eating away at that as well. So those 3 things combined, sure, the ball's in play for less time. In theory, that's better for players' health, right? And then there's less injuries and longevity, but who knows?
All right, we'll move into transfers. Are starting to run down the clock here. So Jean-Philippe Mateta is a big name that could go. What is the transfer window? Ends on the 2nd at midnight in Greenwich Mean Time, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So he's one of the big names. You know, his possible destinations right now, they have it listed: Juventus, Aston Villa, AC Milan, Tottenham, Nottingham Forest. He definitely leaves Crystal Palace, right? He's not staying, especially with the slaughter that's going on with coach and team.
I wouldn't be so sure.
You think he stays?
I mean, they're going to want if he leaves, like the club is potentially in a relegation battle, and they're going to want a pretty penny. And of the teams you mentioned, I mean, Aston Villa are loaning players. Like they've been in financial fair play turmoil for years. Like I would be shocked if they had the funds to splurge in January on.
Well, they got Tammy Abraham. They're not going. They're already locked in.
Yeah,
they're not going to get him.
And Juventus, someone like that, perhaps. But again, January transfer, pretty penny. I mean, yeah. I think it all depends on the manager, right? They're going to have to make a decision on Glasner sooner rather than later if it's a sinking ship, because they're not going to be able to bring anyone in January with him at the helm. I mean, they're probably run out of time, because you're going to be reluctant to go somewhere where they're potentially in a relegation battle, and you may be out of favor with the new manager, and there's going to be a new manager because Glasner's already said he's leaving. So I think that they're probably tied together. There's not a ton of time left. You could see movement, but I wouldn't be shocked if he stayed.
Another big name on the list. Well, I wouldn't call him a big name. I just think he's on the list and people are looking at him because it has been so poor from him. But Joshua Zirkzee at United, looking for a move away to both clubs listed are in Italy, Roma and Napoli. Glenn, what do you feel about his tenure? Obviously came in with a lot of flair and excitement behind him and has not lived up to that at all.
No, he hasn't really delivered, has he? It's not a name that's going to live long in the memory, I think, of Premier League fans, to be honest. He's just, he's still pretty young, isn't he? 24. Like, he just hasn't, it hasn't been a great environment, has it, really? Do you really want to be a young striker at a huge club playing under Amorim, a manager who was kind of perpetually under pressure, half of which was his own self-infliction, to be perfectly honest? And yeah, I mean, you look at his record. He could leave United after 2 seasons and scoring 5 goals. I mean, you get wingbacks who Daniel Munoz will score that in a season. You know what I mean? Like, it's just forgettable. And that's not to necessarily discredit him as a footballer. He clearly has ability. He's clearly a good player. I think it was just a really bad decision, a bad club for him to be at. The environment's been terrible. So if I was him, I'd be desperate to go, get out of there, get to Italy, get in Serie A. If Jamie Vardy can still bang him in, I'm sure he can rediscover his form with the greatest of respect to Serie A.
Also, if you see how well the United players that have left are playing, like
everywhere. McTominay, the Ballon d'Or
poster child,
and Højlund's playing all right.
The Napoli smash, of course, the Napoli boys. Yeah, it's I do think a lot of it's environmental. Basically, my opinion of Joshua Zirkzee is not going to the dial's not going to move much on whether I think he's a player. I think he hasn't been given a great run. He hasn't been shown confidence, and he's clearly been lacking confidence, right? He is when he's come off the bench for United, rarely have you thought, right, this is his moment. He's going to seize it and he's going to transform the game. The vibe I get from United fans, like, turning to Zirkzee is like, this is what it's come to. So I think when you have that relationship with the club and the fans, I think it's being that age, he's not going to be in his prime for another 2 years, maybe. Just get out of there, reset. He might come back to the Premier League with a different club.
There's plenty of those players that are rumored to be coming back in the Premier League.
I would question whether he came in with excitement around him, to be honest.
Really?
He was one of those signings where United signed, we were like, oh, another one, he's probably going to be shit.
I will say we do on the Discord for American Scouser, we do like our picks of the season or whatever, top 4, who gets relegated, who's the best signing, who's the biggest flop, and most people had Zirkzee when he came through. So I think on the outside it looked like it wasn't a great signing, but United have a great social media presence and maybe just kind of sold us a old horse. But speaking of another young kid who looks like he's going to be staying in the Premier League, had a lot of excitement around him for the sense that a lot of people likened him with Phil Foden, but Oscar Bob, he came from Chelsea, correct? He was Chelsea youth, is that? No, he was with City.
Yeah.
So he looks to be on the move to Fulham, or at least it's a possible destination, just given the amount of time. This is a player that I like a lot, and it's tough to break into that City team, right? You have to be exceptional in order to get those minutes. But we've seen in the past that Pep Guardiola has seen that diamond and kind of pushed it or thrust it into the positions that he knows that they're capable of doing. Phil Foden is a perfect example. Why do you think? Do you think that this Oscar Bob move is more him, or do you think it's Pep? The reason he's not getting the minutes is there something he's maybe not as great as the initial thoughts of him were.
I think Pep likes him. Pep has tried to give him minutes. I think he's been exceptionally unlucky over the past 2-3 years because he's had a window where he's had some minutes. He's secured a starting role, and he broke his leg. Right? Broke his leg, and he's out for a long period of time. He started the season. I think he started their first 2 games, and then little niggle. Other players play well, like Foden just kept skyrocketed, and then you're slightly out of favor. And then they bring in Semenyo, and I think Cole Palmer is probably a good model for it. And maybe if Palmer hadn't done what he's done at Chelsea, perhaps he would sit there and say, I'll just wait my turn at City. But seeing Palmer become a household name at Chelsea, like opens the horizon to say, hey, maybe my future lies elsewhere and I can be successful at another club. Fulham are no slouches. They're 7th at the moment, doing great. And I mean, players want to play, right? If you want to develop, and he missed the season already with broken leg, like he needs minutes. Mm-hmm. And Fulham have got a kind of young, exciting nucleus as it is. I think he'd be a great addition, and he's exactly what they need. A perfect fit.
I definitely agree. I think it's a good place to go too to get those minutes, right? Because you will be a household.
Such an awesome ground too.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
I love that place.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal place to. It's a phenomenal place to visit. It's a team that definitely, for an American, there's a lot of connections there, and like they have some of their. So I played at St. Louis University, which one of the Fulham greats, Brian McBride played there as well, and so there's been always a connection there, but they do seem to like, if somebody plays well for them, take them under their wing. It's a great place to be a household name, but exciting. I think he's another one that he'll get his minutes if he does go to Fulham. I think he does, boost his pedigree, and I think he comes back for a big club and challenges on the European stage. But obviously, we'll have to see. Before we run out of time, I wanted to get a look at the table to get your guys' opinion. Glenn, I'll start with you. Anything that you see that shocks you at this stage of the season? Anything that you're looking for as maybe a fluke or maybe not where someone's supposed to be and they'll shake out at the end of the year? We'll start with you.
That's a really good question. Everton have crept up to 10th. That's not a giant shock, but that's pretty impressive for the Moyes project, I think. A few people might have earmarked them as maybe relegation candidates. Things can change quickly. Interesting to see Sunderland kind of maybe regress, not necessarily to the mean, but Sunderland were the big shock story, I think, of the first third of the season.
Well, they had, 6 or 7 players at AFCON as well. So.
And they haven't done badly. They haven't done terribly in that time. They picked up points. So that's a great point. I completely agree. So, they're still doing fine. Yeah, I mean, honestly, United up to 4th, considering everything that's happened this season, I would have thought they was somewhere between like 10th and 7th. I'm really surprised they've crept up to 4th. And Villa, I mean, is it a surprise they're 3rd? I mean, they've been up and among there for a while. They've played Champions League football. I think maybe not necessarily 3rd place, but the fact they are currently, as Jamie said, the 3rd team in the title race is probably a surprise. Emery's one of the best managers in the league. They have great talent in the squad. I'm not like shocked by any means, but I do think it's pretty compelling that Villa, as it stands, are better than United, Chelsea, and Liverpool. That's maybe a surprise. And obviously Liverpool's just erratic season. I mean, look at that form. That is just
Yeah. 4 points in 5. That's insane. Yeah, 4 out of 15.
Only team in that shot in the top 12 without a win in the last 5. Like, that is shocking. So Liverpool's season being abysmal, which you guys have analyzed every single facet of on here, I know. Honestly, you guys drastically underperforming. Us at 8th, I'm like, that's maybe you would tout it as relegation, contenders. Anything that was going to happen, but 8th, I think, is probably the top end of my absolute optimism for this season. So I'm very happy and maybe slightly surprised to see us there. But I don't know, nothing screaming strange. But Liverpool 6th in Gordo, a really, really, really weak season for the Premier League. 6th place is to be behind Chelsea, United, and Villa, and that is probably the surprise of the season.
Definitely. I think it's telling, it's that whole picture, right? The holistic, because those teams above them are not bad teams by any stretch of imagination. However, in the current season, even 3 more wins out of those ties or losses, they're a little bit higher, and so it's been a really frustrating season. One of these were like, at first it was ruining my weekends, and now it's just like, I expect like that goal goes in against Bournemouth, and we go 3-2, and I'm like, yeah, that's about how my weekend's gonna go. So it's gotten to that point. So it's pretty depressing.
It's tough, isn't it? I didn't see that the second half of the table was on the right hand side. I was locked into the top 12, and I mean, you look at that. Spurs are just a disaster zone right now. 14th place. You get the sense that Thomas Frank is like living game by game, and the brutal thing is he's not really impressing in those games. So
he's going to beat City, and then they're going to be like, right, you're gone.
Yeah,
that's how it goes. Yeah,
he's right at the. He's not going to make it to the end of the season. I would be.
Have you seen their fixtures? Their next 4 games.
Are they tough?
They've got City, United, Newcastle, Arsenal, Fulham.
Yeah,
all in the top 7. All of the top 7. And then I'll obviously let Jamie hop in at least with the bottom teams. The one team to watch out for is that, I mean, Palace. You do start to wonder with the dumpster fire that is the Glasner-Parish relationship, that is this exodus of players. You do look at that team and how far stretched they are, right? Could it be a season where they win, like Europa Conference or something, and get relegated? Relegated? Is that beyond the realm possibility? If they lose Mateta,
scenario,
right? Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking. Of course they did that. I would be, if I was a Palace fan, and I know they are, because you listen to them, you read online and stuff. Like, one of the most anxious fan bases, I think, in the Premier League right now of all 20 clubs. Because Wolves, you're resigned. Burnley, you're resigned. West Ham, you're like, what the hell is this? We're just over it at West Ham. Paqueta's gonna go, but might come back. Whatever. You see a bit of grit.
West Ham are resigned to getting relegated, and only when they stop caring, and now they're now winning.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They've turned the season around a little bit.
You see, I would much prefer to be in the kind of the boat of Forest or Leeds than I would be Palace. I think really, if there's an anxiety high for any fan base that's kind of happened and accelerated over the last couple of weeks, you do look at that Palace team and you think they've lost the rock of their defense in Gahey. They're going to lose potentially lose their goal scorer, who I think he's a bit overvalued. I just don't trust his fitness. He's a good player, Mateta. Don't get me wrong. He's a beast of a player. He scored some great goals against Brentford, but I'm not convinced of his fitness.
Mask, doesn't he? Like, looks also more dangerous, like Diego Costa when he had one.
Yeah, the classic mask.
He also thrives in a situation where he's not the sole target. I think his production has definitely gone down since Eze's gone, and even in the situation where they're playing the top 3, it just kind of getting a little bit more space and knowing you're not the target man allowed him to play his game a little bit better. So I agree with you. I think he's one of those pieces that you bring in. He's not the guy. He's a piece.
Yeah, and I think Palace, as you said, they've lost Eze, lost Elise, who's tearing it up with Bayern, with Harry Kane. I mean, what a duo that is. Oh my, I'd love to watch them every week. Oh my God. But honestly, Palace, you're like, I do really worry that unless something changes in terms of, well, I just don't know. It's just crazy that your manager announces he's going to leave. It sounds like he waited because of a conversation he already had with Parish where he promised to wait on announcing that. Then Gahey goes. Then he speaks out about Gahey going. I thought it was all kind of squared away. And then he started, fair enough to him, don't get me wrong, fair enough to Glasner. But he does start raging about it. You're like, that relationship isn't going to last very long. So if Glasner leaves in the next couple of weeks, which is very, 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 very possible, and Mateta goes, and Gahey goes, you're like, who on earth is going to pick up the pieces from winning the FA Cup, 8 months ago, to being one of the most dynamic teams with Munoz and Eze and Mateta? One of the best teams to watch, I think, in the league last season was Crystal Palace. It's just, I don't think we've seen a bigger fall from grace in a long, long, long time, in such a short span of time.
Yeah, I think the only team to get more dismantled than them is Bournemouth, who in the span of 5 months have lost their entire back line from last season, which is insane to think about.
Yeah.
But Jamie, how about you? Any insight on any of the teams we haven't talked about and where they're sitting?
Let's start with Chelsea. Like we have 4 relatively on paper easy games coming up, and are 1 spot out of 4th. I could see us, like, if we string together 4 wins or 3 wins and a draw, like we should jump United and start kind of making some moves towards Villa. The fact that based on the season we've had, that we're in that position is quite crazy. It shows, like, as we've said ad nauseum, how weak the league is this season. The fact that we've lost so many games and we're in that position, like, we've lost 7 games already. Like, Christ. Another team though that I'm actually surprised seeing them that low is Leeds. They were at that purple patch where they were beating everyone, right?
Yeah.
And to see them level with, like, 1 point ahead of Forest, like close to West Ham, like we're talking about the team slightly above them, like Palace getting dragged in. If Palace are in it and Villa and Leeds can't string together a couple of wins, they may be dragged in it as well. Yep. But I was watching the Chelsea Palace game, and in the post game, Rebecca Lowe, let's see if anyone's watching this from the UK, she is the TV presenter in the US for NBC Sports. She was mentioning how Palace are now very much in a relegation battle.
Completely ignoring the
pulled up the table. I was like, well, they're level with Spurs. And Spurs have the hardest next 4 games you could ever imagine. Like, well, they're definitely in it. And that actually begs the question, like, if you're Spurs, do you pull the plug on Frank now, or do you stick with him knowing he's probably going to lose the next 4 games, then pull the plug so your new manager doesn't have to run a gauntlet with a team that he hasn't put in his philosophy, and then the fans have already got no confidence in him, and it's a kind of uphill battle, knowing that it's probably going to end up being Pochettino or someone like that.
I think you look across at United and you see the little bounce that they've gotten and what they did against Arsenal, and maybe you pull the plug and you get a bounce like on a team that you'd probably lose if you don't pull the plug. It's
give it Ryan Mason to the end of the season.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man, it's Tottenham. With Levy gone, it's maybe, he was already an unsettling figure for them, but I think now there is that power vacuum, and I think it is a rotten foundation, which is it's difficult to do anything from that. And I think we could see any number of avenues that they choose because of that. I think there is a lack of direction at that club, and you could see it going either way, of them holding on, basically letting him fail in the next 4 or 5 games, and then pulling the plug. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if we heard that he was fired after the very next game, and they bring in somebody hoping to get a bounce on the next 3.
I think so. It's going to be down to if they have a replacement ready. I mean,
Tottenham will want him to lose, right? To Manchester City. Like the worst. Like, there's one thing worse than Tottenham doing badly, and that's Arsenal winning the league for a Tottenham fan.
Yes, yeah, right.
But they're playing against City next. Like, let them walk all over you. 5-0, yes, please.
So, yeah, and looking, you were talking about, Jamie, you were talking about Chelsea catching Villa. Their next 5, well, they play in Europa, but they've got Brentford, Bournemouth, Brighton, Newcastle, Leeds, Wolves, and then you guys. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, they could probably win 4 out of those.
Yeah,
out of those 6 and secure themselves. For me, for them, and how deep their squad is, it depends on how far they go in that Europa League. I think we've seen it with them already, where if they go, they go to Europe, it definitely compromises their league play. They're just not deep enough, and as the fixtures start piling up, they start to slip away. But
that's the thought, right? Like, are they going to start dropping points, and is Chelsea's absolutely mammoth squad depth actually going to help us out in the next few weeks? But Chelsea is actually showing quite a lot of discipline in January, right? We haven't bought anyone, and we've brought back I forget his last name, but the young centre back from Dortmund who was on loan, just to add some numbers in there. He's a decent player, but he's young. He gets some reps. I think we can. When Palmer comes back, it seems he got another niggle on that groin injury. But Esteval getting more time under Rosinha is a really encouraging step too. Like, he is the most exciting player we have bar Palmer, and seeing him start, like, I don't think he started a game under Maresca, other than the Man United game where he's taken off after 6 minutes. That was it. So,
well, speaking of the next fixtures and what to look for, this is what we've got for next week or this weekend upcoming. It's the days are running into each other with the sun being where it is. We'll combine this with Tenali picks. Mm-hmm. Glenn, we'll start with you. Out of the fixtures of the weekend, what are you looking forward to, and what are you picking?
Yeah, let's have a look. I'm not looking forward to it. I think Villa Brentford will be a good watch, but I do worry that Villa will just overpower us. I'm looking forward to the back-to-back. Just like this weekend, I'm going to watch Villa Brentford, then straight into Spurs Man City. Spurs Man City is probably one of the games to watch. I think there's just if City get an early goal or two, it's going to turn so toxic. I do think that'll probably be Frank's last game, especially if it's a one-sided Man City win. I think, and just on that discussion about giving more time, I think that the atmosphere is going to get so toxic that it's just not going to be. It's going to be mutually destructive to keep him there if it carries on, which is such a shame. I don't want him to get fired. I just think it's an absolutely dreadful marriage at this point, and it's just not worked. The fans hate him, and it's really sad. It's giving like kind of Nancy at Celtic vibes. I mean, the level of disgust they have is totally out of order and out of proportion, but the table's also not lying, is it? The table is not lying with where they are, as Jamie said.
Nor is it any different to last season, though.
No. I mean, yeah, if Man United win that final, there's no difference between the two, really. But hey, he got the trophy, and they'll never take that away, and that's the joy of a trophy. Honestly, Gordon, I'm not seeing many games I'd be that excited to tune into here. It's looking a little even, a little flat. I'm not seeing many games jumping off the paper at all, to be perfectly honest. I think Tonali's picks, Leeds United, put Arsenal under pressure, get an early goal, maybe Calvert-Lewin getting on the score sheet, maybe Stack getting on the score sheet. I like Leeds United getting a win against Arsenal, and that would really fire up these kind of choking discussions. Wouldn't that be fun? Man City brush aside Tottenham. Villa will honestly probably beat us. We hate going to Villa. I think they'll probably win. And then if Arsenal were to drop points at Leeds, a draw or a loss, then it's February, and we're talking about a different title race then, if there comes to be 1 point in it. So I like Leeds United for an upset there. But yeah, it's not a weekend of football. I don't know if you agree, Jamie, that I'm not really like buzzing for this one, to be honest.
I think there's a few good. None of them are really like they're not going to attract huge television audiences, or you're not really going to be excited about them. But like Chelsea West Ham is always a decent game. London Derby, hopefully we smash them. Liverpool Newcastle, I think, could be actually quite close.
Yeah,
right?
That's going to be a 5-6 or
yeah. It's always like Stan Collymore. What's it? Well, that was 5-4, wasn't it? I think. Does the clock strike 12 for Man United and Michael Carrick, and they fall at home to Fulham, and that young Man United fan is not able to cut his hair? I don't know. But that could be one. There's not too many Tonali picks there, but if you'd allow me Fulham United, I'll go with that one.
That's a good one. I like that a lot.
I think one that always it puts up goals, and most likely not this year, but the Brighton Everton. There was a number of years ago, was it 3 seasons ago now? Everton it was late in the year, and they were in that relegation scrap, and Brighton were high flying, and they went to Brighton on a very rainy day, and it had to have been April or so, and it was one of the most exciting games. I think it ended up 4-3 Everton, and Everton saved their season on that one. And since then, there's been a little bit of a rivalry there. And if anything outside of the box excites me, it's probably that one. But yeah, I think, Glenn, that's where I was going, was Leeds doing a shocker over Arsenal and really ramping up, turning that heat to 11 on Arteta and the entire club, because we've seen him do that before. It's just the one stage where if you haven't been there and you've fallen short before, it just starts to kind of eat away at the entire locker room. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, that would be my pick as well. Again, Chelsea, West Ham, usually a real scrappy game. Any of those West London derbies are exciting watches. So, and I probably won't tune into the Liverpool Newcastle game because that's just going to give me an ulcer, I think, this weekend. So we'll have to see. But yeah, a couple of interesting ties. Maybe nothing that jumps off the page like last week with Arsenal and Manchester United. But we'll have to watch and see. Any closing thoughts from either of you guys on the week, on what we haven't touched on?
Well, I think your Monday Night Football theory, Jamie and Gordo, has been proven once again. Look at this treat we're served up. Sunderland, Burnley. What a feast for the eyes on Monday at 2:00 for us. And that is pathetic,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? Offering that up. So your theory is correct. I mean, look at that.
And it follows up with the Friday is Leeds Forest, so it doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cool.
Jamie, anything on you? Anything you want to bring up before we close it up?
No, I'm good. I'm interested to see what happens in the end of the transfer window. Any purple dildos make their way into Sky Sports commentators' ears. That's some exciting developments. But yeah, to see what happens, like any movement, does that improve teams? Does that create tension in the squad and break apart a side? Does Arsenal pick anyone up? Does City? I mean, City already have, right? But yeah, curious to see how that would change things up at the top and or the bottom, realistically.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate both of you guys' times tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Gordo. Cheers, Jamie.